want me to forward this to you? Or just want
unmute. Now I can be heard, and I press play. Okay, guys, if y'all can hear me, hopefully you can hear me. Can I get a thumbs up from the person whose thumbnail is still there if you can hear me? Can you hear me? But she's not doing that. Who is that? Is that her? She did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Sorry, we are delayed today because of technical issues, but here we go. All right. So now today we're going to do chapter 3. Yesterday we did chapter 2. We're going to keep building on chapter 2. So like chapter 2 is not going to go away at all. None of these go away because they're also like foundational to Latin. That we're just going to keep building on things over the course of the next couple of weeks. Remember, this is review weeks for people on year 2, and it's crash course week for people year 1. See, is my remote going to work? No, not yet. Okay. We're stuck on the screen. It's almost like these computers aren't quite powerful enough to do all the things we're trying to make them. There, okay. All right. Okay, so first declension, right? It's going to take some time for you year 1 kids to remember all the endings, combined with the case names themselves. That's going to take time. And then also the function, right? So there's like 3 parts to these gosh dang declensions. There is the actual function of the case, you mentally linking that to the name of the case that you are remembering, and then the endings. That'll be the hardest but probably most important thing to remember, since there are 12 of them. But with the overlaps, it's more like 8-ish. There's about 8. Some of them are super distinct, right? Accusative is really distinct. AM and AS, if those show up on the end of a first declension noun, you know that noun is direct object, right? Like that's it. It's direct object. If you see a noun ending with a macron A, you know it's ablative singular. And then what else? What else is really distinct? The nominative is pretty distinct. If it's just ending in A, it's probably just a singular nominative. Probably, right? I guess it could technically be vocative. Can I get somebody to quietly take these chairs down? They're like just kind of visually distracting to me. Participants. So I don't have my mouse, but maybe I can, like it's not showing me the mouse. I need to admit this person on their iPhone. Let's see, how can I, okay, here we go. Here we go. There is a setting to auto admit people, and I badly need to find that. Okay. No, go away, go away. Okay, so now we're going to add a couple things to all of this. For one thing, adjectives, all right? If you look at your vocabulary summary, which everyone should have, you can probably even just have it out. It's kind of nice to have out at this point, so I'm not referring to it so much. So like that, whatever you're taking notes on back row, get something to take notes on. Don't just sit there. That looks so boring to me to just sit there, take something out. So adjectives, right? They modify nouns like they do in any language. They're actually really straightforward in Latin, at least right now, okay? When you look at the dictionary entry for an adjective, this is how it's given to you, right? So we learned verbs have like these 4 principal parts, these 4 forms you see. Thank you very much, Bert, by the way. We learned that nouns give us the nominative and the genitive in the dictionary entry. So nouns show up in 2 forms in the dictionary entry. Verbs show up in 4, and then adjectives show up in 3, okay? We're given 3 forms of every adjective we have. I have a list of the adjectives in a couple of slides, but you can find the section that says adjectives or ADJ, period. On like the 2nd or 3rd sheet of the vocab summary. So adjective like bonus, we're going to be given a dictionary entry bonus, bona, and bonum, okay? So the difference between all of those is gender. We haven't talked about gender a ton because in first declension, almost all the nouns are feminine technically. The adjectives just handily give us the nominative version of all 3 of the Latin genders. Remember, neuter just means neither. So it's this 3rd option. It is neither masculine nor feminine. We'll talk about neuter a little more today. We're going to focus on masculine. And yeah, so we're given the masculine ending, bonus, us. That's a spoiler for what we'll be talking about today with the 2nd declension nominative. The second one, bona, is feminine. That's fine. So we already know that ending. That would be used to modify a nominative, feminine, first declension noun, like nauta, agricola, puella. And then we're given the neuter version. That's about, like, that's all that's going on with that dictionary entry. So just be aware of that. Adjectives, their ending basically needs to be identical to that of the noun they are modifying. So when you are doing your homework, since today is the day to really, like, actually finish your homework, since you're getting a lot of essential information that you basically like need to do the homework. So like up till now, it's been really hard. So I've had some people coming to me in essay, which is cool. You can always come to me in essay to talk about homework. I will help you as much as possible with it. But a lot of you are probably like seeing adjectives that have a different ending. So something like maybe it would be bonice because it's a dative plural or a ablative plural. And you're like, wait, we don't have that word. I don't see it anywhere on my sheet. So you kind of have to get good at recognizing like this is the actual stem, I guess, the B-O-N, and the ending is going to change. So you would still look at the dictionary entry that is bonus, bona, bonum for a word that has a totally different ending. Does that make sense? Like, so nouns, verbs, and adjectives, basically, those are the three things whose endings are always going to be shifted. And it's going to make learning the vocabulary kind of difficult for you for a couple of weeks. So not only are you like learning the vocabulary, but you're also getting used to the way these words all change. Inflectionally is the fancy word for it. With their endings, right? It's always the ending. So you kind of need to know like the first syllable or syllables of a word. And then for nouns, verbs, and adjectives, know that like the ending part is always going to be shifting a lot. You'll get used to it though. So anyway, it can go before or after the noun it modifies. So that's actually kind of important. Again, with word order in Latin, like there's a lot of flexibility. Adjectives can go before or after. They don't even have to be next to the word they're modifying sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's like just like in English, it's a verb between a noun and an adjective. Like the teacher is good or whatever. Okay, here's an example. Bona, poeta, nautam, magnum, laudat. So, who can tell me how many adjectives do we have in the sentence? You can find the adjectives as we are just now learning them. Name? Danny, right. Danny, how many adjectives do you think we have here? Good. What are they? You're not sure? Well, you're right. There's two. What are the two adjectives? Anyone? Again, the endings are making it hard to tell. Your name? What? Ava. That's right. Ava, what are they? Very good. Yeah, excellent. I don't know how you can see from that corner, but if you can, that's totally cool. But know that there's plenty of other sheets to go into. So we have bona and we have magnum. What is bona going with? Okay, because adjectives are only going to modify one noun. They're only going to be paired up with one noun. Bona is going with anyone out loud?
It would be going with magnum because poeta because they both have the same ending.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And magnum's going with what?
Magnum would be going with nautam. So.
Exactly. Okay. So this one's pretty easy. Okay. They do tend to be right next to the word they're modifying, but you have to be careful because it's all about these endings, right? So I've bolded the ending. Bona is going before what it's modifying. Poeta. Poeta is probably the what of the sentence. Anyone out loud? Perfect. And when I say it out loud, go ahead and definitely say it out loud. So yeah, that is just a subject, okay? Because it's a perfect mentioned noun. It means poet. It's got that A. Unless we're like screaming the word poet and it's vocative, right? The case that I have to make fun of and don't like. It's gotta be the subject, okay? Unless I like left off the macron or something, it's actually ablative. It's a subject, so that's the subject noun phrase. So we call these noun phrases when a noun has like an adjective or two modifying it, because sometimes they'll have two adjectives modifying it. We call that like a noun phrase. So it's not just one noun, it's the noun and its buddy or buddies. So nautam and magnum, they have the AM ending. So Maddie, what case is that? If this is nominative subjective case, what the heck is magnum nautam doing? In this case, we have the adjective after the subject, but we can still tell they're going together. So it's not nominative. Is it genitive, dative, accusative, or ablative? You know, this is very far away from you in the back row, Grace. Accusative, right? It's my favorite case. How could you forget, Maddie? Yeah, it's my favorite one. It's this guy right here. It's that really distinct accusative, which means it's what kind of object, Grace? Yeah, exactly. Very good. Yeah, this is the direct object. So what does the bona poeta do, Grace? Well, so I'm sorry. That's a weird way of asking. What is our verb? Laudo, laudare. So laudat, You remember what laudato means? Means to do what? Like when we clap our hands. What's your name? You're Danny. Okay, this area right here, I'm getting on mixed up like somehow. Danny, what does laudato mean? You're thinking of cogito. Your name? Riley. Sorry. So what does laudato mean? To praise. Y'all really need to drill the vocabulary. You have to drill the vocabulary. If people from last year don't know a word from chapter 1, that means that you brand new people, it is going to be tough. I believe in you though, and there probably will be a curve. So do not expect the curve to be huge. It might just be like a single letter grade worth of a curve. Yes, to praise. And what person is it, Danny? First, second, or third? Or I'm sorry, Kylie is what I was talking to. Kylie, what person is it? So O-S-T, mustis, int. You said third? Exactly. Yeah, very good. So it agrees with the good poet. It agrees with good poet. So the good poet does what? Who wants to finish it all off? Name? I was going to say Natalie. I need to go with my instinct. Natalie, oh, you want to put it all together? Good. Go ahead. Very good. So sometimes I do that to help. She didn't need that. She just had it. But that demonstrates how different the word order is, right? The good poet, so that goes left to right. But then we got to grab our verb because our subject's like the verb. Okay. Praises the direct object, the great sailor. Any questions on that? If you're still like feeling like intimidated by that because of the vocabulary mixed with the grammar, that's okay. Okay. It's not all going to happen this week for you. Hopefully next week or sometime this month, it kind of clicks a little bit and you get more familiar and less kind of like freaked out by all the information I'm throwing at y'all. What's a curve? Oh, it's like at the highest grade is like a 90. That means I would bump that one up to 100, and that'd be a really intense one. But that would mean like everyone would go up 10%. Is that gonna make sense? I guess. Yeah. No, just like everybody would go up the same amount. Okay, so the good poet praises the great sailor. Ignore the D. Sorry, it should be praises. Okay, it should be present tense. I'm thinking of perfect tense with my older kids. Okay. Also, adjectives sometimes pretend to be nouns. This is another thing to watch for. It happens in your homework, actually. I think the second or third one has an adjective pretending to be a noun. Okay, this happens a lot. Okay, there's that phrase like the good die young. Okay, what is the subject of that sentence? The good die young. Do you know what? Okay. Just say it. Good. Yes, the good, okay? And good is an adjective, but it's functioning as a noun. We don't need to say the good people or good person. We just say the good. And so that's an adjective pretending to be a noun and specifically a subject. So let's look at this one. Does anybody know what multi means? From multus, multum, multum, the adjective multus, multum, multum. Highly, Danny, what? No, I know. So I was just thinking Kylie and Ava. Got it. Ava, what is multi mean? I'm sorry? Yeah, exactly. So this is just going to be many, and that's going to be the subject. And I'll explain why this long I can mean it's a subject, because you guys don't have second declension yet. This is a masculine one. So many praise, or many do not praise Latin. Okay, many do not praise Latin. Right? Hopefully some do though. But yeah, so it was just a subject. You'll be able to tell because of what I explained in about 3 minutes from now, because that's second declension. But yeah, there's nothing else that could be the subject, and this like basically has to be the subject. It wouldn't really make sense for it to be genitive. Nothing else has that long I ending, so it's not like modifying another noun. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Don't worry about it too much. Here are all the adjectives. You actually do have a good chunk of adjectives. And for some reason, I don't think I bolded Emmaus. So make sure you maybe put a star by Emmaus because I accidentally didn't bold it. So your eyes might gloss over it. But yeah, so like nouns are the thing you have the most of. Then verbs and adjectives are pretty tied. Antiquus, that one's really easy. Ancient, we get antique from it. Magnus, like magnificent, large or great. Maius is my. You might not think of my as a descriptive word, but it is explaining like what something belongs to. Multus is many. Avarus is greedy. Has anybody heard the word avarice? avarice, one of the 7 deadly sins if someone's using a fancier word than just greed. Pauci is few, so that's the opposite of multus. Romanus just means Roman. Sometimes that's treated as a noun. It shows up in your homework as a noun, basically. Like, oh, Romans, I think is the first or second translation. Then Bellus is pretty, Bonus is good, Humanus is human, Malice is bad, like malevolent, or think of Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Parvus is small, Stultus is foolish, and Verus is true. Verus shows up in your homework as well. Anyway, those are adjectives. They're really not too bad, but their endings change, I guess, even more. Their endings are even more flexible than nouns and verbs, so that does make them kind of tricky potentially. All right, also, one last thing before we actually get to the main course of the class are articles, okay? Articles are a part of speech that we haven't talked about. So words like the and okay? Like just the letter A, like student or something, teacher, a teacher, rather. These do not exist in Latin, so you need to add them yourself. Feel free to add the word the or to any noun if it makes it sound like better English, because they don't exist in Latin, so we need to supply them, or else things sound weird. So we don't have this word rex, but it means king. So rex discipulum vocat. The king calls the student. If I didn't put articles in there, it would just be king calls student. That sounds weird, right? It sounds like funky and like a person who's like just like narrating something, but in a weird way where it's like very robotic. Versus the king calls the or a student. So the and are interchangeable. Usually in my class, people just end up using the, but you can use a, and that has its own weird little distinction from that argument. Now, Tua? Oh, weird. Okay, thank you for mentioning that. Yo, apparently Tua. Oh, yeah, it's still not bolded here. So whereas meus is my, tuus is your. And be careful about those because the stem of those words is basically just me and tu, respectively. And so it's a really tiny part of the word that's not changing, whereas the ending is the thing that's changing on the end. Yeah. Don't get meus mixed up with me. Me is me, where meus, or meus with any kind of ending, that is mine. So it's different than me. Any questions so far? All right. Okay, now let's talk about the second declension. Up here, those are the blue letters. So they're already up there, but just kind of try to pay attention up here while I go through them one at a time. And maybe you'll learn some. We're good if you kind of like focus in the right way. But yeah, we're going to go through that right now. And you're going to see a lot of words in your homework that are second declension, not first. Okay, so nominative ends in US. All right, we have a lot of English words that show up in English that end in US. I've already mentioned cactus, stylus, virus, syllabus. What else? Any other ones? So yeah, that US ending. So the word amicus means what out loud, anyone? Pardon? Friend. Yeah, so it means friend. So, and this is a friend who is a male, like a guy. Whereas amica, like a lot of words in Latin, you can put feminine or masculine nouns on. So if we did amica, that would be a friend who is a female versus this one. And then the plural is a long I. So amici, okay? Also, I put this one smaller because it's super rare, but in chapter 2, they give us like the 3 nouns in Latin that actually end in R in their nominative. So technically, there are 2 options for how masculine nominative nouns can end, US or R. The only ones that end in R so far are puer, which means boy, the counterpart to puella, which means girl. And then there's vir, like V-I-R, that means man. And there is augere, which means field or farm. Any questions on that? All right, possessives, we got the genitive, right? You guys know the genitive. It's the possessive case, the case that we use of or apostrophe S to translate. So keep in mind, like when you know something genitive, an of, the word of can just appear from the fact that you know that it's genitive. It'll feel weird because we don't have any equivalent to that in English, where there's just like a preposition that's built into a noun ending, but that is how it works. And then, so amici, so just like first declension, the genitive overlaps with the nominative plural, for better or for worse. kind of like an S or an S apostrophe or apostrophe S in English. And then we get this big 4-letter plural genitive ending, amicorum, which is very identifiable. So that's nice. That's the first thing you see. It's very similar to first, right? Second is O-R-U-M versus A-R-U-M. Those are basically the same ending, okay? Between declensions, sometimes there's like overlaps. There's at least a few of them here. All right, the indirect object dative case is going to end in a long O. An O with the macron, which just kind of sounds like the sound O. And then the plural is also long IS, just like first declension. Remember, the preposition to comes out to play when you know it's dative. It doesn't have to, but often the way we structure a sentence that has an indirect object, we will use to. Like I give a direct object to an indirect object. So don't worry about, don't be shy about whipping that to out. We don't need to, right? It means we can also say I throw Jimmy the ball instead of I throw the ball to Jimmy. Either way, you got options, right? Direct object. Okay, so I like the direct object accusative case endings for this declension just as much as the first declension. Well, maybe a little less actually, but the plural one's great. But singular is um, right? It's um, and it's the plural is os. Okay, amicum would be the direct object version of the word friend. Amicos would be friends if it's direct object. Okay, good. 2 more. Ablative is long O again, and it is is in the plural. So you're going to see this a lot, guys, with pretty much all the declensions. That dative and ablative often are either identical or they're like half identical. So for first declension, they're only half identical because first declension has to have that horrible AE show up for the dative singular. But with second, they're completely identical. And then the vocative case, who really cares, but US will turn into E, and the R will actually just stay the same. Words like puer, that's how it shows up in subject or vocative. So I'll add a little R here. Any questions on this? You're all kind of like, okay, I kind of get how that functions. I would know how to use a chart like this if I'm using it with my translation homework, which I will. But if you think I'm going to remember all these endings, even by this time next week, you must be kidding. That's okay, right? It's okay to not fully remember these until like the first week of September, maybe. Take some time. You just need to know how to use this chart. Does everybody feel like they can use this chart, like they know how to use it like a tool? Yeah. No? Good. I'm glad you're being honest. And so what about it is like confusing to you? Like, can you kind of specify what is kind of like escaping you about it?
I kind of understand like kind of how to put it together. I don't understand totally. Like if you can't just plug words from the text into your homework, then what would you do to change it?
You don't have to change them. So keep in mind, you never have to be the one to form these or to change a noun. You just have to be able to identify what the noun's case is when you're translating. So let me just come up with a sentence real quick.
It's like some of the words in homework I just can't find.
Yeah, so that's why you have to look at the first part of the word, like the first syllable or two, sometimes 3 if it's a bigger word. That's what you're focusing on, not the part at the end. End is going to be changing. So, like, let's see if we saw something like amicus exitium laudat. I'm going to get, so if y'all can hear me on the camera right now, A, in a couple weeks, I'll have a bigger camera that can actually see the board. B, I got to get an extension cable so I can move my computer to actually be in front of the board. The way the outlets are here, I just can't do that. And I have 3 classes back to back, and my laptop dies, like, really bad. But anyway, I will fix that. I'm writing this sentence, amicus exitium laudat. So I see amicus, you would be able to find that in your vocab, right? Because it's like, that's how it shows up in its dictionary entry, right? So you'd be able to find that, and you'd be able to, like, well, think, okay, it has the US ending. That's the US ending right there on my chart. Okay, these endings are on the back of your vocab sheet as well. And you would think, okay, well, that's the subject. And then you get to exitium, and you could probably look that up too. The thing about exitium, I'm about to make things a little more confusing, is what gender have I not talked about yet too much? Anyone? Uh-huh.
Masculine.
No, this is the masculine gender. Uh-huh. Exactly. So you do have some neuter words showing up. Neuter is technically chapter 4, whereas this is supposed to be chapter 3, but I do kind of want to introduce this. Neuter nouns are not bad. So first declension is all about feminine, but in second declension we have masculine and we have neuter. You can see the neuter up here if you squint, they are purple. But so the only difference is that in the nominative, a neuter noun can actually show up with um. So exidium technically could be the subject, but we're already deciding that this is the subject. And then it's still um in the accusative, these neuter nouns, which is kind of annoying. So if you see a neuter noun end in you'll know it's neuter because in its dictionary entry, it'll end in the in the nominative. Exitium, exitii, destruction, right? But yeah, if you see it as exidium, that's either the subject or the direct object. Kind of annoying. And the only other thing is in the plural, they can have a in the nominative or in the accusative. That's it. That's neuter. That's basically what they tell you in chapter 4. I know when I say that's it, and it's just not really simple. It's like you just added a caveat to a big information. It's not simple. You're right. It isn't. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off tangent. Yes?
How are you supposed to tell which, like, I or O? Because there's like 2 O's and 3 I's.
So you keep saying use as though you're going to eventually be writing Latin yourself. You never will have to do that. Eventually, we might do a creative writing exercise where I do get you guys to write a sentence in Latin, but you're always just translating, okay? You're going to be translating Latin. It's not like Spanish or French where you're learning to speak this language or generate it yourself necessarily. It's about figuring out how to translate things that people who died 2,000 years ago wrote. That's what Latin is. We can speak it in class a little bit, that's fine, but it's mostly about reading stuff. So you never have to use anything, really. You just have to recognize things. So, but you're right. So if you see amico showing up with the O, you do have to do this weird thing where you're like, okay, that could be an indirect object, or it could be an object of a preposition. And you have to use context clues to help you figure it out. Remember we talked about with indirect objects, that's really only showing up with when the verb do dare is at play. Okay, like if you see something like dot, a third person form of do dare, if someone is giving a direct object to an indirect object. If you don't have do dare, then it's not going to be dated, it'll probably be ablative. And you'll know it's ablative because it'll show up alongside or near one of these 3 prepositions. We only have 3 prepositions, right? With, without, and in. So if you see one of those guys in your sentence, you will definitely have an ablative. That's how it is. You're going to have an ablative, but that's ablative to be the object of that. Like in Roma, okay?
Excuse me?
Yes?
Can I have Caleb both to the office, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So in Roma, okay? Let's say this is a sentence. I live in Rome. Habito in Roma. We would have that macron over the A in Roma. We know that is the object of the. But anyway, you do need to do this weird thing where you kind of like, you identify what something could be, and sometimes that'll be up to 3 things, right? We saw it already yesterday. When you see a noun in an AE, it could be a plural subject, singular possessive, or indirect object. It's not the funnest thing to do to differentiate, but it's not impossible. Does that clear up some of what you're talking about? Did I talk to you about the homework yesterday? No? Okay. Well, if you get the chance, if you're not too busy in essay, you might want to come. I'm like usually sitting over there, and we can chat about the homework a little bit. It's just going to take practice. Again, it's like when you're actually doing it that Latin seems doable and not too difficult. When we're talking about it in theory, it seems boring and hard. But when we're actually checking the homework, that's when it comes together. You doing the homework early on, that's still going to be potentially frustrating or confusing. But then when we check it in class, that's when light bulbs start to go off. And you're like, okay, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Now in the future, I know how to approach this in a way that'll be less frustrating. And I know what to change. All right, we're going to do some translations, but let's fly through the chapter 3 vocabulary real quick, just to kind of see where we're at with that. Okay. So I think you can basically say this if you know it once it shows up. I guess we only lost like 7 minutes because of my technical issues. Oh, good. Farm. Okay, so this is farm. So this is one of the 3 second declension nouns I was telling you about. Okay, we got 10 minutes. Okay, I guess that's okay. I kind of want like 20 more minutes. So yeah, it's one of the only one of 3 that end in R instead of US. Okay, it means field. Like what word, Carson? What words in English do we get from this?
Agriculture.
Yeah, agriculture, good. Let's keep going. I kind of want to do the translation. Well, okay, let's. Okay. Agricola, Richard. Yeah, this is the person who hangs out in a farm. So even though it's chapter 3, they're still giving us first declension nouns. We're always going to be getting first declension nouns pretty much every chapter. They're never gonna they didn't. It's not like they gave us all the first declension nouns. So that is first declension. It is one of the 3 that's actually technically masculine. Don't worry about it. But that is a farmer, someone who lives a farm. Amica is what? Anyone, Natalie? Or so kind of. It's a friend who happens to be female. So we would still just translate this as friend, but the endings do show us that it's a woman and not a guy. That'd be amicus, amicus, amicus. Yeah, it does mean friend still. Amicus is also friend, but it's masculine. Feminine. It's Macy, right? Okay, Macy. Yeah, this is just woman. We get female from it, etc. Philia, philii. What is that, Aurora? What's philia, philii? So we have girl, we have woman, we have friend who is a woman. The close, kind of. This is daughter. Or sorry. What's your name again? The blue shirt. Aiden. That's right. That's right. What is this one, Aiden? If philia is daughter, philius must be. Yeah, good. So we have this word in English, filial, which means like having to do with like a child or something, or a son or a daughter. Numerous. What is numerous? That one's tough. Guys, how about I put numerous on the quiz? So May, I'm gonna put May on the quiz. I'm gonna put numerous on the quiz. And what else did I say yesterday? There was something else I said I was gonna put on the quiz yesterday. I'll remember it. Ava. Yeah, very good. So this is a good old second declension. It ends in US, and the genitive it ends in long I. So numery would either be of a number or it'd be numbers, plural subject. Good. Populus. This one's good. Pretty easy to remember. Natalie? Good. This means people. We get words like, anyone out loud?
Population.
Yeah. What's your name again? Yeah. Anything else besides population? We got like populus, popularity. Puer. Do you remember puer, Hayden? If puella is girl, puer is, yeah, good. It's boy. And again, this is the second one now we've seen that is an R instead of US on the second declension. There's only 3. Once we learn all 3 of them, all the rest of them will end in US. Sapientia. This one's kind of tricky in terms of related words, don't necessarily help us. Ava? You said wisdom? Very good. So yeah, this is related to Homo sapien. Homo sapien is like the designation, the taxonomical designation for men. So it means like wise human, basically, or thinking human. Weir is, so femina was woman. That actually looks like female. This doesn't really look like anything to us necessarily, but it means what, Grace? I'm sorry? Say it one more time. Oh, you're thinking of era, another short word. Richard? Good. Macy, can you tell, is it first or second declension? Is it the mostly feminine declension or the masculine declension? Second. Yeah, it is. So only the genitive is telling us that this is the third and final second declension that ends in R instead of US. Because if it ended in US, that would be the word virus, which is a Latin word that means like poison. But it's just weird. Okay, remember that weird W sounding V. Good. Alora, you need to move up right now, please. Okay, avarus. What is avarus? Taylor? Greedy, actually, but yeah. Unless, I guess if it was used as a noun, it could almost kind of be this greedy. But yeah, greedy. Okay, this means Roman. We're going to stop for that one. This Roman is in your homework. Healthy is also in your homework. It means the opposite of multus, carton. Not small. So parvis means small. Healthy means Ava. Yeah, few. So that is kind of hard that we have 2 P adjectives. One means few, one means small. So please they get them mixed up. Parvis is small. Day. This is a preposition. Okay, I think I left this off. So in sine, I don't actually have 2 multiples. The day is what? Anyone out loud? Oh, guys, I don't like your dictionary entry for day. So everyone write this down. Near day, just write that it's going to be either from or about. It gives you like down from, and then like eventually it gives you about. But it's just going to be from or about. I don't know if we ever have a case where down from is related to it. it's probably most likely going to be about, and then sometimes it's from. But just be wary of that. It's going to take an ablative as its object. Okay, a few more. That was day. For DE, it's under your preposition. In, that's the easiest preposition of all time, Kaylin. Yeah, and though it can also be on, so it's something to be aware of. It can be on every once in a while. Hodie is not yesterday or tomorrow, but Kaylin, today that shows up in your homework. Semper. So Saipe is often, where Semper Hayden is even more than often. It's always. Very good, very good. Yeah, so we have two adverbs that tell us about like how frequently something comes. Okay, now our verbs. Habeo is to. Turn that B into a V, drop the O. You have the word person. So yeah, if you have something, that's what this verb is. It's like possessing something, holding something. Satio doesn't show up too much. You want me satisfy? Oh, sorry, I'm moving quickly now. Satisfy. So we just get two verbs that chapter. Okay, let's apply this a little bit. How much time do we have? Okay, for Zoom people, it might cut off. Oh, it's gonna cut off in. Yeah, we got 3 minutes. We watch us do at least one translation, and class ends in 10 minutes anyway. So you're only kind of missing a few minutes. People at home, and I will upload this later today. It'll be on the LTA WordPress site. I will not email your parents because their inboxes have been blowing up. Okay, who can read number 1? Anyone? Who can read number 1? Natalie, thank you. Yeah, it could be like Widemos. But very good. Filium, Nautai, Romani, and Augris, Widemos. Since Widemos is the last word, how about let's just take care of that real quick. What is the person and number of Widemos, Natalie? Is it first, second, or third person? Exactly. Very good. So that means our subject is what? Well, if our verb is first person plural, that means the subject is one of these pronouns, right? It's, which one am I taking the longest to write? What was it? Yeah, very good. So our subject is we. Y'all see how that happens? Even though you want to like look at these nouns up here and be like, oh, one of these is maybe the subject. You want to like be like, this is my verb. I'm gonna look at it first. Alora, go ahead and move behind Nelius. With Demos, you're gonna say it's first person plural. So our subject is we. So we're extrapolating the subject from the verb, and we're actually kind of like briefly just ignoring all of this at first. Kind of crazy. We, and what does Waderi mean, Natalie? It means to, not to call. So we have the V1, Voca Vicari to call. Yeah, or see. So we see a direct object, right? What's our direct object? Well, now let's start to look at the nouns on the left side of the sentence. What could be our direct object, Carson?
I got the whole translation down, but I think the direct object is probably Augris.
Augris? Let's see. Well, our direct object is accusative, right? So it needs to end in either am, um, as, or os. What word here ends with am, os, or as? Kaylin? Yeah, so it's actually our first word in the sentence is actually the direct object. Isn't that wacky? We would never do that in English. So we see the sun, okay, because that's what filium means. It means we see the sun. And then what are Nautai Romani doing? This is kind of confusing, so bear with me for Nautai Romani. They're actually both the same case. It'd be very hard for you to know that, but technically Nautai, even though it's in the first declension, is masculine. Because I guess ancient Romans thought that sailors and poets and farmers is the other one, were like men jobs, I guess. Yeah. So it's technically masculine. There's no way you would know that by now. But they actually, both of them, Nautai and Romani, are what case, Carson? What do you think?
They are probably both nominative plural.
They could both be nominative plural, but we know our subject is we. So what's the other thing they could both be? Right? If they're not these two guys, they're actually going to be these two